order.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, Deputy Speaker, it's a pleasure to join my colleagues today on this matter of public importance because, of course, cost of living is a critical issue. It's a critical issue across the country. It's a critical issue in my community. It's a critical issue in the electorate of Lalor. And I'm appreciative of following the Chief Opposition Whip, who spent a good first 2 minutes with a list of how much things had increased in their cost, none of which I'm in a position to refute. But I would ask the question, after we see this big, long list from those opposite about increases to costs for households, why then did they vote against every cost of living measure introduced by this government to support families across the nation? That's the question. Why do they know how much everything's gone up, but choose to act, not support people so they can pay those bills? That's the ultimate question. And we know that we've worked hard on this side. We know the work's still to be done. We know people are still hurting. But we've made substantial progress on inflation. Wages are growing again, unemployment is low, and we've seen the creation of 1.1 million jobs in one term of government, 4 out of 5 of which are in the private sector. These are things that Australians need to understand. They need to understand the hard work that's happened and some of the positive results from that. Average unemployment under this Albanese government is lower than any other government of the past 50 years. We have unemployment at 4%. Some would argue that that's full employment. It's the first time in 50 years that Australia has had unemployment at 4% or better at the same time as inflation's been below 3%. This is the soft landing that we would hope for, that economists would hope for. And this is the soft landing that is a Labor soft landing because it's been done without driving unemployment, because inflation has come down without people losing their jobs across the country, because inflation has come down while we've grown jobs. Inflation has come down while we've grown people's pay packets with increases to the minimum wage, with a 15% pay rise for care economy workers. These are important things. They're really important in my community. And those opposite have voted against them. They voted against supporting students. They voted against tax cuts for all Australians. Can you believe that? They voted against it. They voted against the energy rebate. They voted against cheaper childcare. They voted against cheaper medicines. And let's face it, I heard it said today that perhaps they don't want to see interest rate cuts happen, that perhaps that's not what they want, because they seem to like that Australians are in pain. Well, let me tell you, we've heard a lot today too, a lot today and a lot across this week, about the $600 billion nuclear fantasy that they want to fund through taxpayer dollars. They're not talking about private investment here. They're talking about money from our pockets, from the Australian public's pockets. We've heard about the $350 billion of cuts they're going to find. Their conjecture, not mine. They've said they're going to cut $350 billion. And then the latest thought bubble is the $10 billion for bosses' lunches, paid for by the taxpayer. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Everybody in the world knows that. But those opposite think that the Australian taxpayer, on top of the pain they're under, should pay for these things. Not only are they pretty much a policy-free vacuum, they're certainly a costings-free vacuum, given how long it took them to tell us how much the nuclear fantasy was going to cost. Now, I came in 2013. I remember former Prime Minister Tony Abbott reaching the night before the election, no cuts to health, no cuts to education, no cuts to the SBS or ABC, no cuts to the pensions. And I was here while they endeavoured to cut them all. Every single measure became on the chopping block in that cruel 2014 budget. So those opposite have form, and the Australians are awake to them. They know they'll undo funding to schools, funding to hospitals, just like they've done in the past. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.